The DeBarges are a big family. The musical group's biggest success was the 1985 hit Rhythm of the Night, but the personal lives of the DeBarges have been defined by discord. Between their struggles with addiction, crime, and drama, the DeBarges have lived tragic lives. DeBarge matriarch Ederline met her future husband Robert DeBarge Sr. when she was just 17. Robert was 4 years older, in the army, and white, making him socially forbidden fruit. Unfortunately, he was also insanely jealous. He ordered her not to wear jewelry, makeup, or anything else that might attract another man. After a hasty wedding, things rapidly went downhill. Ederline said Robert tormented her physically and emotionally, even keeping her continuously pregnant. Ederline's children had horrific memories of their father. Chico claimed that his father sexually molested his siblings. Bobby allegedly took the bulk of the abuse, but all the children suffered. Bunny, for one, went so far as to blame the siblings' professional woes and personal struggles on the ugliness they endured as children. It's easy to spot similarities between the DeBarges and the Jacksons, which would make Elle the Michael of the DeBarges. As the Michael of the group, he received special treatment from Motown founder Berry Gordy, who saw Elle as a budding solo artist. According to their mother, the prospect of being split up was very painful for the close-knit siblings. However, in a 1986 interview with the LA Times, Elle remembered things a little differently, explaining that he wanted to move out of the group and give the others some creative space. Elle officially started dancing to his own drum beat after DeBarge released Rhythm of the Night, but he stumbled out of the gate. Previously hailed as the creative soul of DeBarge, he did zero writing or producing for his self-titled debut album. He blamed his lack of involvement on a failed romance, but it wasn't his only source of sadness, as he felt lonely without his siblings. Elle went off to also have troubles with the law. In 1986, he pleaded no contest to causing a misdemeanor disturbance after a Michigan woman accused him of attacking her. Then in 2007, he found himself in handcuffs again, this time for possible domestic violence. And in 2018, he was charged with felony vandalism after an argument led to him bashing in someone's windshield. Far too often in life, we're forced to choose between career success and personal happiness. In Janet Jackson's case, pursuing stardom meant shattering James DeBarge's heart. In 1984, the two eloped, but Janet's manager wanted to cultivate the image of nasty Janet instead of an unavailable married woman. Plus, her family wasn't exactly thrilled about the union, which caught them off guard. Rumor had it that the couple were clashing like plaid and polka dots, and there were reports that James was depressed and on drugs. If they were fighting, it might have been because Janet's manager relentlessly pressured her to leave her husband. The badgering seemed to work, and the marriage was annulled within months of the ceremony. Berry Gordy reportedly called Bobby DeBarge the most talented artist I have signed. Musically, Bobby could do it all: sing, write, produce. Unfortunately, the one thing he couldn't seem to do was heal. He sunk into heroin addiction and never resurfaced. Perhaps his problem resulted from alleged molestation by his father. Or maybe fame simply proved too many temptations and imposed too few restrictions. Regardless of why it began, the ending was drawn out and agonizing. While serving a 6-year prison sentence for drug offenses, Bobby discovered he had HIV. In his last years, he grew paranoid and distant from his family as his health declined. He managed to complete a final album, but he realized that his life was ending. And in 1995, at just 39 years old, he died of complications from AIDS. Jonathan Chico DeBarge was determined not to ride his famous siblings' coattails, but when he released his first album in 1986, DeBarge was already a household name, and people frequently mistook him for a former member of the singing group. And Chico himself admitted that he didn't have the greatest singing voice. However, being a DeBarge didn't always give him a leg up. During childhood, his famous family made him a target for ridicule, so he got into a lot of fights with other kids. And as an adult, he got into a lot of fights with the law. Guess who won? Shortly after releasing his second album in 1988, he was busted for trying to traffic cocaine with his brother Bobby. He then made a somewhat successful comeback in the late 90s, but things went downhill again when he was stabbed outside a nightclub in 2003. While recuperating from his injuries, he started abusing painkillers and then moved on to heroin. This resulted in another drug-related arrest in 2007. Over the course of his life, Elle DeBarge wound up the father of 12 kids. He has credited his children with helping him get through tough times, but he hasn't always been there for them. In 2010, for example, he met with his daughter Kendall for the first time in 15 years. Part of the reason Elle wasn't around his kids was his crippling drug addiction, which led to bouts of homelessness and a 13-month prison stint. In fact, in 2010, he couldn't even locate his 3-year-old daughter because he lost her to the system while hooked on drugs. However, that year he was also a Grammy-nominated artist who said he'd seen the light. But the following year, he entered rehab, and in 2012, he was busted for allegedly trying to sell drugs. Hopefully, in the long run, Elle will follow the advice he has offered fans. Just learn from my mistakes.